Every so often, Christmas time brings tragedy, but once in a while, it brings something more sinister. So, from a missing newlywed to a haunted castle, here are 5 allegedly true paranormal stories that happened on Christmas. Number 1. The Mistletoe Bride, England. Imagine a grand English manor centuries ago, its stone corridors warmed by candlelight, and a wedding party rejoicing as Christmas Eve snow settled silently outside. The laughter of guests and the distant strains of music drifted through the halls, carrying promises of a new life and eternal love. But not all was well beneath those timbered roofs. After the wedding ceremony, the bride proposed a Christmas game of hide and seek, a childish delight to mark their joyous union. Her laughter led them through twisting passages until, at last, she vanished. As minutes stretched to hours, the cheerful calls of the wedding guests were met only with silence. Some claimed to hear faint knocking as if from behind sealed walls, but no one could find her. Days turned into weeks, and the manor slowly fell into a hush of dread. Snow piled against the ancient windows, and the servants whispered that something terrible had happened. Rumors emerged that the bride had hidden herself too well, that perhaps she had become trapped behind a locked door or inside some forgotten chest. Yet no one dared speak of it openly for fear that the truth might be too awful. It wasn't until years later, after countless bitter winters and lifeless summers, that a family member stumbled upon an old, ornate wooden trunk in a rarely visited attic room. Inside, they found bones draped in tattered wedding lace and a rotted veil. The poor bride had hidden so well that she sealed her own fate, trapped without air, screaming into the silence of the empty corridors. Since then, there have been reports on Christmas Eve of a pale figure drifting near locked doors and dusty attics. Visitors say they've heard quiet sobs or seen a spectral bride reaching out with empty arms. Whether it's her restless spirit or just the product of old legends and wind through the rafters, one thing remains certain. Every Christmas, that sorrowful bride reminds the living of an eternal, silent hide-and-seek. Number 2. The Phantom Carolers of the Old Church, Kent, England. In a secluded pocket of the Kent countryside sits a tiny chapel, older than memory, its once bright paint long since faded. By day, it seems nothing more than an abandoned relic, its wooden pews and broken stained glass a silent testament to the past. Yet, as Christmas Eve descends, villagers speak of strange and eerie music drifting from its ruined walls. It's said that on certain still nights, when the world holds its breath before the arrival of Christmas morning, gentle voices sing carols in perfect harmony. Those who have ventured close claim the melodies are beautiful yet unsettling, each note trembling in the cold winter air. They've found no choir, no lantern light, no footprints in the frost, just the echo of songs that vanish if you dare open the chapel door. Long ago, as stories tell, a congregation gathered here on a Christmas Eve when a sudden, violent storm trapped them inside. Lightning struck, and in its grim aftermath, none survived. Now, they say, their spirits return each year, bound to reenact the final carols they never finished, voices carried on a wind that knows no rest. Some listeners have reported the words becoming distorted as they draw closer, the harmonies warping into strange, discordant cries. Others have described hearing the faint sound of footsteps, as if spectral choristers are pacing the aisles in endless rehearsal. It's as if the old church still stands between worlds, blending the warmth of Christmas faith with the chill of death. To this day, few dare to approach the chapel on that holy night. Those who have braved it emerge pale, describing the carols as both heartbreakingly beautiful and profoundly unsettling. Whether it's trapped souls reliving their final moments or the mere echo of ancient legend, the phantom carolers remind us that sometimes the veil between the living and the dead can be as thin as a single trembling note. Number 3. The Christmas Eve Stranger, rural North Dakota. On an isolated stretch of farmland, where snowdrifts rise like silent sentinels and the night sky glows with icy stars, a family once huddled close on Christmas Eve. Their home was modest, wood walls creaked in the wind, and the oil lamp cast dancing shadows. They settled in for the holiday, expecting only peace in their remote world. Just before midnight, a knock sounded at the door. The father, puzzled, opened it to find no one but a howling gale. Yet, in the fresh snow, a single set of footprints led toward the barren fields. Heart-pounding, he followed them with a lantern, but after just a few steps, the footprints ended abruptly, no sign of their maker. Unnerved, he retreated, latching the door against the frosty darkness. Later that night, the family heard it again. 3 deliberate knocks, each more insistent than the last. But each time they opened the door, they found nothing but swirling snow and emptiness. They gathered by the fire, frightened yet compelled to wonder what unseen traveler might roam the night. In the following days, neighbors told old tales. Decades earlier, a weary traveler had come seeking shelter on Christmas Eve and found none. The poor soul froze to death under a moonlit sky, mere steps from a warm hearth. Ever since, on certain unforgiving nights, he returns, knocking on doors, pleading for entry into a world that has long since passed him by. This ghostly wanderer still haunts that rural landscape, they say. Some nights you can see a faint figure drifting in the distance, hear a gentle knock that chills your blood. And though families now keep their doors locked and curtains drawn, they live with the knowledge that out there, just beyond the lamplight, something forgotten and lost calls out for comfort that will never come. Number 4. The Brown Lady of Raynham Hall's Holiday Appearances. Norfolk, England. Raynham Hall stands grand and silent in the Norfolk countryside, its halls once filled with laughter and the rustle of fine dresses. Now, during the chilly nights of December, those quiet corridors host something else entirely. The looming presence of a spectre wrapped in faded brown silk. Guests who've stayed during the holidays describe sudden drops in temperature, their candles flickering violently as though caught in an invisible wind. Some have awakened late at night to glimpse a figure at the far end of a corridor, a woman with hollow eyes, drifting as if in search of a lost memory. Legends say she's the spirit of Lady Dorothy Walpole, trapped in time after a life of scandal and sorrow. On certain Christmas gatherings, when the hall's descendants and their guests celebrate under decorated boughs, she appears more often, drawn to the warmth and music she once cherished. But her presence is no comfort. Rather, it's a silent, melancholic reproach. Those who claim to have encountered her at Christmas describe the rustling of a gown that never seems to fade. They say her hollow gaze can be felt even with one's eyes closed, pressing against the mind like the weight of centuries. Some witnesses cannot shake the feeling that they've stepped momentarily into another era, caught between her world and their own. Whether a tormented soul or a lingering imprint left by tragedy and time, the Brown Lady remains forever at Raynham Hall. Each December, as laughter echoes through decorated rooms and festive fires crackle, she roams the darkened halls. In that place where past and present mingle, her quiet footsteps remind the living that not all Christmas visitors are of flesh and blood. Number 5. The Hauntings at Glamis Castle, Scotland. Glamis Castle looms in Scotland's misty landscape, a fortress of stone and shadow steeped in centuries of secrets. By winter, as the winds howl through the turrets and the land lies hushed beneath snow, strange apparitions stir. It's said that at Christmas time, when families gather, unseen eyes watch from the darkness. In candlelit halls, visitors have felt the brush of invisible hands and heard whispers where no one stood. Servants speak in hushed tones of doors opening on their own, of ghostly figures drifting along corridors lit only by moonlight and distant torch flames. The castle's past is heavy with stories of hidden rooms, ancestral curses, and restless spirits. During the holidays, the activity intensifies. Guests feel an unshakable sensation of being followed as they make their way to festive dinners, glancing over their shoulders to find nothing but their own pale reflections. Yet, there is always the sense that something old and patient waits beyond each threshold, amused by their nervous laughter. Late at night, some claim to hear a soft moan or see a flicker of light where no lamp should be. Many believe that these are the souls of former residents, lords, ladies, and servants who met tragic ends and cannot abandon the castle's stony embrace. The halls, decked in holiday garlands, mask an undercurrent of sorrow. At Glamis Castle, Christmas is a time when past and present collide, when joy and unease mingle in the firelit rooms. The spirits may only show themselves in subtle hints, a breath of cold air, a door that slowly creaks open. But each of these signs leaves visitors with the uneasy understanding that at Glamis, Christmas cheer shares space with spectral watchers from long ago